Okay, everyone. Hello. In today's conversation we want to look at Web3 and in particular a Web3 winery called Invico and what the Web3 world might mean for the future of the wine industry and maybe for other industries more generally. And we will also explore the topic of NFTs and the topic of decentralized autonomous organizations. So super exciting topics. And to help me untangle all of this, I'm joined by Envico's founder, former Wall Street trader and crypto expert, John Pathak, who is known anonymously online as the Wizard of Soho. Welcome, Joy.
Hi, great to be here.
Yeah, good to have you with us. And we have with us Mario Rome Sculati, who is a fourth generation Napa winemaker. Welcome, Mario.
Thank you so much for having us, Bernard.
It's such a pleasure. So before we explore why you created a Web3 winery, maybe we can start by you giving us a bit more of your background and maybe initially where are you joining us from today? Where are you at the moment, Mario?
Oh, I'm actually out at our family ranch out here in Napa, and I have a pretty wild office with different winemaking samples and stuff. So I kind of just park behind a painting.
Very nice.
Yeah, and so just out here in Napa, and it's a gorgeous day. The vintage is looking really great. As a lot of people around the world know, Napa Valley, even though it's small from a geographical standpoint, is pretty mighty for Cabernet Sauvignon. And we're just doing the best we can, as smaller scale farming and winemaking. But yeah, it's going to be a great vintage. It's looking great. And we need it after the fires that had ravaged Napa County.
Very good. That sounds exciting. How about you, Joy? Where are you joining us from today?
Yeah, I am in Naples right now. I was supposed to be taking a flight to Zurich, but it got delayed, and I was like, I'm going to miss this call. So I ended up just making a stop in Naples. And literally, I have no idea where in Naples I am. I just picked some random hotel, and that's where I am. But I've been sailing like the Amalfi Coast for the last week, and was going to go chill in Switzerland with some friends. But yeah.
Very good. Dotted around the globe, which is always interesting. So maybe you can tell us a little bit about yourself, very briefly, Mario. What is your background?
Sure. Yeah. I come from, for sure. Yeah. Thank you. So I come from Wall Street background, finance. Worked across banks, funds, California, New York City. I was an engineer before that, designing engines, stuff like that. From there, I kind of got bit by the crypto bug. Got into a bunch of crypto-related projects, early startups, and got very excited by all the the bigger message that crypto sends out. And from there, I got into to say I'm like one of the bigger NFT collectors, whether it's one-on-one art, PFP projects. I advise a lot of NFT projects from from small companies to large companies that are trying to do collabs in the space, and have a couple other big NFT projects as well. One that's very successful right now. That's kind of what I'm up to.
Very good. So how about you, Mario?
Well, golly, my family came to Napa Valley in about 1901 from Italy, and they came over originally as hard laborers, right? I mean, tending the vineyards and planting the vineyards, and from there, my grandfather ended up becoming the farming manager and vineyard kind of chief of Beringer Vineyards in Napa Valley. and that was actually for his brother-in-law. So back in the day, there was not a lot of families, and so you kind of picked the Italian you wanted to work your fields if you were the winery owner. And so that's kind of how we started. And then it, of course, evolved from there. Our family planted vineyards. I now have some really great leaseholds on some wonderful properties throughout the American viticultural areas within Napa Valley. And so it's just neat to kind of have that heritage, but also be doing something new, just, with those older sets of relationships. And so one thing that's kind of neat about our family is my father, even though he's retired now from winemaking, he actually was headhunted by Robert Mondavi, because at the time when Robert Mondavi opened his first, his winery in Oakville, he kind of just rounded up the Italian like off a list, I guess. And he's like, well, I'll trust a guy with a vowel at the end of his name. So my dad worked at Mondavi in the cellars. And then a friend of his, Bo Barrett from Chateau Montelena, asked him to come up to Calistoga at the top of Napa Valley to help make the 1973 vintage. And if a lot of people may recall, that was the year that Chateau Montelena made the 1973 Chardonnay that went on to win the Paris tasting, which was actually called the Judgment of Paris, that was held by Stephen Spurrier in 1976. So my dad, by accident, by just working hard in the cellars, got to make some of the iconic wines, and as a child, I grew up being able to, not totally a child, but there are some European listeners, but, as a young man, we got to taste some of these old vintages, and at the time, even I remember my palate being educated, so to speak, just casually, through family and friends, and being able to taste some of the great vintages of Napa Valley. So that kind of led to wanting to make my own wines. And that's actually how the Wizard and I met. Is one of my brands, which is called Rome, which is actually my middle name. It's kind of at the higher price point of the spectrum. It's $185 a bottle. And I get this DM on Instagram from the Wizard of Soho. And he's like, hey man, I need 3 cases of wine. And I was like, well, I don't know who you are, but that's an awesome order. That's like $7,000. And so we ended up meeting that way, is that the Wizard had tasted some wines that I made, and we became instant friends. Wiz actually came up to Rutherford to one of our cellars, and we just imbibed and conversed for hours. And we actually drank some really good wines that first time. And so actually,
wine's a great glue, Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm such a big wine fan, and I love this story that you met over a passion for wine, which is amazing.
Yes.
So, Wizard, then you're a great person to define Web3 for us, and maybe outline the implications and opportunities you see in the Web3 world for the wine industry more specifically.
Sure. So, Web3 for me, the simplest way to put it is decentralization, true democracy. In today's world of, let's say Web2, for example, so like Facebook, Google, these are all like conglomerates just taking everyone's data and commoditizing it. What Web3 does is basically gives that commodity back to the people. Like there is no centralized, secret database out there collecting everyone's stuff. It's all in the open. Everything's transparent. The blockchain, everybody can see everyone's wallet. Like even, bank accounts, you like, I don't know how much is in your bank account, but on the blockchain, everyone can see everything. Like if you know my wallet address, you know exactly how much is in my wallet. And if I do something, like I buy something, I sell something, everything is out in the open. If you want to, like who makes decisions for Yahoo or Google or Facebook? There's very specific, like 5-10 people. The shareholders, they think they have a vote, but they really don't, right? But at the end of the day, the money makers sit in like a very small pocket. Web3 kind of, changes that. It kind of brings the power back to the people. the true way, like, government should be run, like the way, when Greeks created democracy. I feel like this is the right way. Like if they had the blockchain, they would do all their voting, through on-chain voting, because that's the end of the day. That's the truest way of governance, right? Like governance is what Web3 is about. It's people think it's currency and crypto, but what in its essence, it's all about governance. Like even when Satoshi's paper, the white paper, when he put about Bitcoin, it was all about, end of the day, about having seamless transactions. So you're a platform for a transparent platform for transactions. You can't have some government entity that like kind of decides anything over you. It's true peer-to-peer, that if I want to send money to you, I should be able to send money to you in a peer-to-peer decentralized way. So Web3 for me, like I said, is the easiest one-word answer is whether we're going to call it decentralization or democratization. Like it's kind of the same thing. So that's what Web3 for me is. Then what was your other question? Like how NFTs, like what was
the implications for Web3 and opportunities, implications and opportunities for the wine industry more specifically.
Got it. Okay, so that's great. So wine industry, other than from creating wine, like different technological advancements and scientific advancements, there's been no form of there's no disruption that's happened. So disruptions happen from a scientific standpoint, and it's been phenomenal. It's kind of changed the wine game in many ways, from protecting your crops to the process, and I'm sure Mario can go deep into that. But from from a community standpoint, right? Like, so a traditional winery, the way they sell wine or the way they involve the community is you become a part. So you want to be a part of a winery, you want to buy some wine, you can sign up for a wine club, and then they'll send you wine every so often, and that's kind of your only kind of point of contact, right? Sometimes you'll have once in a year like a harvest party where some of the people will come together, and that's kind of it. And then in Christmas or different festivals, you'll get some discounts. But there's no gamification of any way, so there's no way to engage your community in the wine world other than just selling them wine. So there's a big, what I think Web3 can do when it comes to it's not just wine, but just food and wine and food and liquor industry in general, is kind of, bring the power of community, not only just community, but like gamification of community. So getting the community involved in a way where they feel like they're part of the winery. They feel like they own the winery. They feel like they own the brand. They feel like they own this, it could be a tequila company, but like how cool it is to be able to say, when I was like younger, I had no, when I just got started into the collecting wine in a small way, I was like, someday I would love to own a winery, right? And now we give that power to, you don't have to have like, millions of dollars or like billions to buy a winery, because most wineries, lose money, right? Like there's a common saying, like, how do you make $1 million in the wine business? You start off at 5 million, right?
That's the truth.
Usually, yeah. So usually wine is like, not that, I would say profitable for a lot of people, but there's certain people it's very profitable for, because it's also very oversaturated, right? So here you can feel like you're a winery owner by just buying an NFT, and that's where the Web3 comes in, and that's giving that a sense of like like accomplishment or like power that, hey, me and like this community, we'll decide what happens with this winery, not some winemaker, not some conglomerate that I buy in like the grocery store, the supermarket, right? So that is something that's never been done in the wine space or any food and wine. Like, have you ever heard of any food and wine company where the buyers make decisions on what happens with the company? I mean, other than like maybe shareholders, but not the consumer, right? Or not like the collector of the bottle. Like that's never been like. Companies consider you consumers, not collectors. We consider you partners and collectors. So this kind of community engagement and a decentralization of the entire business has never been done in the food and wine business, food and liquor business in history. So that's the first level of disruption. Now the second layer of like where the Web3 part comes in, because we consider ourselves a technology company. And this is something, wine companies will not say, other than if you're like a distribution company, or like, like a mailing list company. Like there's all these like wine lists that will send you all kinds of funky wines. But disruption from the technological standpoint has not been done. So what we're doing is obviously we're using the power of NFTs to create a valuation, create a sense of connection, like the power of connection, and use the blockchain to give your membership some valuation. Because there's a lot of wineries out there, like rare wines, where people would love to be able to buy and sell their memberships, but there's no such concept. What people do is they get on a wait list. It's 13-15 years for the rarest wines, and if somebody wants to get rid of their membership, there's no monetary way for them to get some. They put in all this time when they got in early into this winery. There's nowhere for them to get anything out of it other than just selling their bottles of wine. So what we've done is create this community and create a value for the community. So these NFTs, obviously they change in value. So over time, as we grow, our first supporters, who we're raising money from, we've raised like $500,000 from our community. I mean, in a bear market, we're raising $500,000 through the power of Web3 and NFTs. I mean, that's kind of unheard of in this entire space, right? In the food and wine industry. And we're not using VCs. Everything is bootstrapped from the community and by us. There's no outside VC money. There's no conglomerates that we're taking money from. They're going to control decision. Everything decision making is going to be controlled through the DAO. So, and I'm happy to get in more into DAO because I know you wanted to chat about that. But we're going to use the power of the DAO to really bring the Web3 into the wine world and give the community a sense of ownership into an industry that they would not be able to have any form of ownership otherwise.
Very good. I have so many questions, and I want to go back to Mario, but literally I have so many questions, and we will come back to you to discuss a DAO, which stands for a decentralized autonomous organization, which is basically an organization that lives on the blockchain, is controlled by the people that own it. So we will come back to that. I also want to come back to you and ask we talked about the decentralized element of Web3. I would love to know your view on how the Metaverse fits into that as well. But before we do this, Mario, why did you want to get involved in Web3, and what enticed you into this? The wizard was talking about technology and how it is driving this whole industry. I've covered this quite extensively in my writing and interviews. I've interviewed the CEO from Vivino, for example, where they're using AI to. I've interviewed the CEO of Tastery AI, for example, where they use, again, work with the wine industry to help create new wine flavors that consumers will actually like. And I've talked to Glenn Fiddick, who is using NFTs to sell some of their rarest whiskey. So there's a lot more that you can explore on my channel. But coming back to Mario, why Web3, and why does a winery from Napa wants to get involved?
It's a very good question. And all those companies that you referenced are doing wonderful things. Obviously, some of the retailers and some of the like tasting, sharing notes, and using AI to better present a product to you is not exactly, I think, what we're going to do with Web3. One of the things, I think they're very useful. Everything that you just mentioned is very, very useful. But part of what we're doing kind of comes from also my background in the rare wine world, because before I made wine, my mentor in the winemaking was a guy named Denny Malbec, who was the head of winemaking for Chateau Latour in Bordeaux. And so not only did he teach me his techniques of winemaking, but we also talked extensively about value, about collectability, about just the what happens after a bottle of wine enters a collector's cellar or enters someone who's at least loyal to a brand and really has a connection with that brand, and what happens to that. And the wizard brought up a very good point, which is we know very high-end wineries in the Napa Valley who, if you sell your bottle on the open market and it may have a serial number, or they just get wind of it, they get mad. Okay. I believe the opposite of that. I believe that if you're making the best wine possible and you have a very wonderful, loyal group that is with you, right, and that loves your brand and feels part of the brand, they should be rewarded, right? And when I was running the auction businesses, I mean, we sold about $30 million worth of wine during my tenure there, and we competed with Sotheby's and Christie's. I worked for a group called Spectrum Wine Auctions here in California. And so at that time, I remember thinking, how awesome would it be to reward the people that are part of your entity, where if they've put in the commitment, the time, the love of your brand, but for some reason that they want to exit, they have something. They have, even if it's just a position number in the mailing list, right? So that was one of the things that the Wizard and I originally talked about, was how can we make it from the beginning this decentralized democratization where everybody who owns a piece of this has some value if they need to exit for reasons that are maybe out of their control. I mean, health reason or, family reason or whatnot. And so that concept we both loved from the beginning, like back from that first meeting in Rutherford when we're drinking 1973 George de la Tour, and you brought a 1993 Mouton, and we're sitting there and we're talking about this concept because right now we think that we're the first company to accept payment in Ethereum. That's like ancient history almost, right? But when we first released our first batch to just the Wizards friends and followers, on Instagram, we accepted Ethereum for the first time. And now having this sophisticated way of interaction and way of, accepting payments is obviously very easy through the blockchain and fast. But it's kind of transformed my view of how a product that has so much culture, so much legacy, right, in wine, and all this history can be brought to people who may not have been into wine originally, but maybe there's also an old school who wants to learn about the Web3 in the process. So we're seeing both. We're seeing people post on our Discord out having, 1950s Vegas Cecilia at dinner. All right. Like that's like the consumer side of the spectrum, next to a guy who is posting a meme with like Conan O'Brien carrying a giant glass of wine, like, hey, I'm in the wine world now. And so it's kind of like this convergence. That's what I think is most exciting because of how many people now you can reach, one, through curiosity, and two, through genuine love of wine. And so this is going to be a heated quote, I guess, but wine is the greatest beverage in the history of human civilization. So with all of the great microbrews and, the Scottish folks might get mad at me saying that because I love scotches and everything, but it is just incredible. And it brings people together. So for us now, having, almost 7,000 people in our Discord from scratch, I mean, just from scratch, and having that right now, it's like, it can get a little rowdy sometimes and a little funny in the Discord, but people are genuinely interested. And that to me is the greatest like moment, like bam, people within the NFT space and the crypto space are gravitating to what I consider the greatest drink in the history of mankind. So it's cool.
Yeah, I won't disagree with you there. I'm, as I say, I'm passionate, and all the wines you've just mentioned, I want to become your friends, man. We need to get together.
We love drinking wine. I'll tell you that. You have a great time drinking wine with us. It's always a pleasure.
Yeah.
Very good. So, Wizard, then, maybe you can talk a little bit more about what a DAO is, a decentralized autonomous organization, and maybe why you felt that this was the way you wanted to create NVCo and
Sure.
talk us through what the aim of the organization is.
Yeah. So, when it comes to decentralization, right? Or democratization. You need some way for people to be able to get their vote in rather than making suggestions. So, the old school way, put your name in the suggestion box, go online and put like, the little at the end of it, like contact us if you have any complaints or whatever, right? But the real way, the only way people can really make a decision or have any form of voting power is like the old school way, which is, you buy actual equity, private equity, anything in the company and have voting power. So how do we bring that, but like in a community way without like, actually, because you can't actually give up like equity and stuff like that, because there is no like, like it's all decentralized. So we're like, okay, so you need some form of voting, right? So you can vote with your stock. So let's say you can vote with your like a smart contract. So the smart contract on blockchain can emit tokens. So a lot of crypto voting that happens through these contracts, like ERC-20 contracts. So those are usually coins that you can buy, like crypto coins, like Uniswap, Ethereum, and so on. And they're all controlled by DAO governance. So anytime there's a proposal, you can put into the DAO, and then everybody who has a coin has a single voting power, so they can make a voting decision. And everybody who has a coin can go and put a proposal in. So unless you have a coin, you cannot put a proposal. Unless you have a coin, you cannot vote. So a DAO basically helps you create this governance framework where everybody that has has the token that DAO has emitted, you can create proposals. So it's basically like a huge governance framework. So that's the best way to kind of explain what a DAO is. So imagine like you're voting on like in Congress, like how crazy is the parliament and Congress with voting? Now imagine anybody can put a proposal in, and you have true democratic way that who's a true citizen or has a coin can make a vote, right? So that's kind of what a DAO to me is, and I think that's pretty good general definition of a DAO. Now, why did we pick? Because like I said, I wanted to give people, we wanted to give people the power of having decision making over their winery. Like, I mean, they can give suggestions to us, and we can go and we can say no, but we wanted to do it in a way where they truly feel like they have control. So we have, so we're, like I said, we're minting our NFTs right now. Almost 50% of the NFT funds that get raised go into the DAO wallet. I think it's around 42%. I can get the exact numbers that go into the DAO wallet. All this money, it goes to whatever. So the only way this money gets transacted and used for anything for the winery is through DAO governance. So we issued NFTs, which are ERC 721 contracts, so the non-fungible tokens. Essentially, each owner of a non-fungible token has one vote in this DAO. So we're going to have 5,555 NFTs when all is said and done. So right now, like I said, we raised $500,000 by selling around 1,400 NFTs approximately. So at the end, we'll have 5,000 voting members. Each NFT contract, you can have multiple NFTs, like singular people, because you can buy it on the open exchange as a free market. But each one will have a singular voting power, and they can put in so say they want to put in, we want to have a rosé wine for the summer. So we want to do a partnership with, say, somebody in Provenance, in France, and we want to do a rosé bottling. So people can put in like, okay, that's going to cost $50,000. This is what the funding is going to go towards. And then they put the proposal out for vote. Now the DAO, which is basically the community, I mean, that's basically what the DAO is. A DAO is a framework, but a DAO is the community. The community, all the holders of the NFTs can now go on the DAO governance structure, our portal that we're going to have. Most of it, so that's part of our technologies. We're building this amazing Web3 portal that's and like aging contracts, which I'm going to get in a little bit. So think staking, but like a whole new level that's never been done before. So basically, people will be able to, get this proposal out, vote. Money gets transferred out to the way it's put in if it goes through by the DAO governance. So if it hits all the parameters for majority vote and so on, and that's it. I mean, there's nothing like me and Mario. Like we ourselves are going to be putting in proposals to the DAO. The DAO that we, you would think that we'd want to have full control, but this is true decentralization. We give the power to the people. And so now if you want to make proposals, so we already have proposals that we're going to look to put to the DAO, like, you know, a vineyard property that the community holders can come and live in, like a villa, like think like a hack house or like a Soho house, but a vineyard focus, Web3 focus for, like, you know, like a hacker house. So we're putting a proposal, like, you know, we want to have with different vineyards or like locations around the world where we're going to lease out properties for our community members to be able to go stay and so on. If you hold the NFT, we have like a wine bar, Ivinco wine bar proposal where we're going to have an NFT gated wine bar with partnerships with other NFT programs that can come to our wine bar, and all the, you know, 50 to 75% of the revenue will go back into the DAO. So these are all proposals like we're going to be putting in to help grow the DAO. Obviously, we have the experience, so we're going to be kind of the advisors to the community. But the community can put in, if you own an NFT, you can put any proposal in, and everybody has to vote on it, or whoever wants to vote on it can, and, you know, you hit the parameters. So I feel like that's one of the reasons why we put in the DAO into this. And, you know, I feel like from a governance structure, like, there's a lot of technology that we're building out, and DAO is just one part of it. But the DAO is one part that we help that makes the community grow and feel more connected and make them feel like they're truly part of this, because they are, and we want them to feel like their voice matters rather than, you know, everybody says your voice matters, but at the end of the day, they're like, listen, we're the CEO, what we say goes. But here, that's not the case. Truly, your voice matters, because we cannot get any funding or even, like, you know, any transactions done without getting DAO approval on, you know, the governance wallet. So this is the true DAO. This is the way, you know, we believe it should be done, and we're going to do our best in trying. You know, there's a lot of different types of DAOs that's been done, a lot of the failures, some kind of successes, but we're going to try and slowly work our way towards having true decentralized governance in a vineyard or in one winery, I guess. Yeah.
Very good. And that we obviously have different forms of NFTs, or non-fungible tokens. And I recently interviewed People Pleaser, a digital artist who sells her creations online as NFTs. And this is the more traditional way NFTs have been used, because you basically make a digital good non-fungible. What we're talking about here, was what you're selling, is a utility token, right? Where you get certain perks. So Mario, if someone buys an NFT, what do they get?
It's a good question. So what we said from the beginning when we launched on Twitter and the Discord was that we have built a majority first and we're minting second. So on one hand, while this was never part of my original outlook on the wine business, once we really understood where the future is going with Web3, right now is the equivalent of getting to play the Pong video game in the bar in Mountain View, California, when the guy first put it in, right? Like, this is the beginning. So we just knew that if we designed something very open platform and very democratized from the beginning, then we really couldn't, well, first of all, win, lose is kind of moot. It's just getting it going. And so here we are launching in what's considered a pretty bear market, and already having people that are engaging, who have purchased NFT, engaging on real properties, right? From the beginning, the utilities that we offered were essentially 2-bottle airdropped, have to be 21 years old or legal in your country. And there's boxes for that as part of claim of your token. But basically offering immediate release of library wines that I made, right? And then also having immediate access to the VIP cellar in Rutherford, which is really amazing place. It's located on historic George de la Tour estate in Rutherford, and it's one of my cellars. And then also our tasting lounge in Calistoga. We've had people, a couple of dudes drove up from LA overnight so they could fit in, like, being part of the experience, like, from the beginning, so they could tell everybody about it, right? So literally these people who were some of our earliest mentors came across the state of California. So I spent an entire day with them, right? And we just talked about all the same things that we're talking about, right? So first of all, they're happy as can be, right? Like the utility for what they paid for the initial Genesis NFT, minted token, like that box is checked. Like they got utility out of it. I mean, just from day one, right? But now they're still members. They're still DAO members. And we're sitting here having very similar conversations about the future of Web3. What do we want as a community? And as you're going to see, it's going to kind of unfold, right? Like, I don't think so far people want us to be the gateway for all wine, right? Like wine.com is the largest retailer of wine with a long tail, right? They have every bottle of wine in the world. I don't think we're going to do that, right? Like that's been done. But some of the things that come up during the conversations are, hey, we currently right now have a master lease on a vineyard that's right next to a Cabernet vineyard here in Napa that's owned by 100 Acre. And those bottles are $500 a bottle. So do we want to, as part of it, as part of our whole mission, is to literally have a single allocation that always drops to every member that's a world-class wine that's then augmented by other decisions of what to do with the capital, like a cool champagne drop, a cool rosé drop? Is it going to be a wine club, or is it going to be something better than that? And everybody wants something better than a wine club, right? So we're figuring this out in real time. But everything that we've built right now, it creates utility from the beginning that engages every NFT holder. There's real utility from the beginning, and it's all part of a discovery process. And that might seem like a little bit open framework at the moment, but the assets that we already have and the properties that we have, it's already like solid. So now it's like, what do we want to do with the community? And so I don't want that to sound like too vague, right? Because everybody's already getting access to the VIP properties, wine, access to Discord, access to information. I mean, we have people post on the Discord, hey, I'm at this restaurant. Here's a picture of the list. Like, I need to know what to buy. So then my master sommelier buddy jumps in and we answer questions. And it's like, maybe that's also what the community is going to want over time. But in the years to come, there are going to be so many businesses that enter Web3, and they're all going to have to figure out how they want to participate in that decentralized way. And it was like the wizard was saying earlier, most businesses pretty dictatorial, right? It's like, here's what we're offering, take it or leave it. And then we'll market to the people that want it. It's less cool. That's less cool. I mean, it's kind of cool to just have a say and to be involved at the ground level. So I don't know. I guess that's like the old fashioned American in me. I don't know what it is. It's like, just bootstrap, do something cool with people you like. And that's not necessarily an American thing. I don't mean to say it like that, but it's like, it's just the can-do attitude and like wanting freedom of your options.
Yeah, which I think is great, because the space is so young and so many things are in development that it is probably a really good attitude to take. And also this is in the spirit of Web3 and the DAO to some extent. So Wizard, where do you see the Web3 space going? What are the kind of things that are really, that you find exciting?
Yeah, so I think the big push that's happening in Web3, obviously, I would say the two biggest is Metaverse and gaming. So gaming, I feel like, is a no-brainer. I mean, all of this originated from gaming. Bitcoin was created for gamers to be able to buy and sell in-game items for each other. Ethereum was kind of created as a governance structure because the creator of Ethereum he was playing a video game for days and days and days, and then the owner of the video game decided all the skins and weapons that he got was kind of useless for the second version. He was like, you can't just take everything away. There should be, community should be involved in this decision making. So gaming, I think, is going to be one of the biggest parts. It already is, but NFTs will be a big part of that, because a lot of gamers, like I said, they're putting in hours and hours, whether it's like games like Call of Duty, Fortnite. Fortnite, the skins and weapons is like $1 billion a year revenue for them, maybe more. I don't even know how much they make now. But I feel like, but nobody has ownership of that but the creators of Fortnite, the creators of Call of Duty. But I think what the Web3 is going to do is we're going to see games like those come out, but the ownership is going to sit with the gamers, with the players. So if you play this game and you build yourself up level by level by level, you can choose to sell this character now and maybe just create a market. If somebody wants to buy it, they can, and you're the one who gets majority of the winnings, like the upside, not the like a singular entity. And we're seeing that already. There's a lot of gaming that I play, a lot of crypto gaming, RPG games, and it's been phenomenal. There's games I've played that I played for days and then sold characters and weapons that I made in the game for like like $50,000-$60,000. I mean, that's just mind-blowing, right? Like,
it's so
cool. I feel like that's power is given to the individual. Like I said, Web3 is all about decentralization. So that the power goes to the people. Like, the power should be with the people, right? Like, the power should not be with corporations and singular entities. It should be with the people. So that's where I see the push going further. I think mainstream gaming is going to start moving more and more towards NFTs, so that players can get earnings. A lot of play to earn, I think it's going to be a big thing. A lot of play to earn that, like like Axie Infinity, for example, was one of the biggest ones. We're gonna see some failures. I feel like Axie Infinity did so much, but now they've kind of gone downhill because, they kind of didn't figure out certain aspects of inflation of their coin as people play more and earn more, and then gets dumped on the market. So I think we're going to see some consolidation in play to earn. In Metaverse, every NFT project right now is saying they're going to do a Metaverse, but I think maybe we'll have one or two. Like, I think the Bored Ape Yacht Club is definitely going to be somebody who's going to be around for a while. I've been an early, mint, like I've had apes and for like a lot, from ages and ages ago. So, like I'm pretty deep in in that space. So I think maybe there'll be one more like Clone X, like Artifact is one of the big fashion type of NFT projects that Nike bought out completely. They have a pretty good, strong, established presence. So I think they'll be able to do something in the Metaverse space. But I think that'll be it. I think there's over 100 Metaverse projects. I think most of them are not going to exist. You'll probably just have 2 free towards the end of it. But yeah, gaming and the for NFT specifically, I think the next. Like the next big meta that's not been explored. Like, we've seen a lot of exploration of Metaverse, play to earn, art, obviously, but the one big that's not been explored is digital items. So, like, everything has just been all digital, so artwork and so on. Like, you don't get anything physical, right? But I think that's going to be like utility is going to be the next big thing. So whether that's like memberships, like Soho House type memberships, like golf. Like, there was a project that did like a golf type membership. So that's where like somebody like us, like Ivinko Vinery DAO, we're going to be sort of the leaders of that new meta of Web3 and digital items, where you're going to mint something and you're going to get a wine bottle. You can be at a dinner table and your grandma, who's telling like, oh, are you still buying and selling those monkey pictures? And be like, yeah, but look, I also have this bottle of wine that I got, and that came from an NFT. And I think that's going to be the next big like wave where people are going to want to feel like, like merch is the only kind of real life, be it like Bored Ape Yacht Club did the Ape Fest, where you come to New York City and they do this a 3-day concert. So that's like IRL, like real life experience. So I think that's going to be a big push, and we're going to be a big part of that, because obviously wine, I think, is one of the greatest lubricants of conversation that's ever been done, of great memories. So we're going to be using this great historical.
It's definitely one of the greatest lubricants of conversation ever been done.
Yeah, I mean, some of my greatest memories, I can pinpoint it to specific bottles of wine. Like, I can tell you exactly the bottle of wine with like certain happy memories I have, or sad memories, right? Like, I can pinpoint it to certain bottles of wine, and I feel like that's something most wine lovers appreciate it. And all these new people in the space coming into learning about wine, they're starting to appreciate it too, because they're like, wow, I want to learn more. I want to try different types of grapes and grow that knowledge, because we have created gamification, right? Like, we have a huge matrix and this portal. Like, we have created a staking program where it's not just about you getting a perk from minting NFT. You have to play a game basically to get those perks. And the game is, how wine ages with time. We created a smart contract that ages your NFT with time. So you stake it into this contract, and as time goes forward, you unlock perks. So you unlocked in, like, if you did 2 weeks, you unlocked the 2 physical wine bottles that you get for free. So you don't get the wine bottles unless you stake it into the contract for 2 weeks. You stake it 2 more weeks, we have like surprise raffles. We have like free dinners, a bottle of Mouton we're gonna raffle off, NFT artwork. I mean, there's a 2-year plus matrix of gamification in this portal that's built out of perks. You want to put your own NFT artwork on a bottle of wine that we're going to produce, you're going to be able to unlock that perk if you have enough staking contract for 1 month. So this type of gamification and technology that we're building out obviously not been done, and I feel like this is the kind of going to be the next meta, like phygital items, like actual physical items from your digital community that you'll be able to experience. So that's kind of what I think.
Yeah. I wanted to just do a little piggyback comment on the NFT wine label concept. So this is something that we've heard from our community, right? And so there's people within our community that own original CryptoPunks and Bored Apes and Moonbirds, like all the different artwork NFTs, right? Hey, could I have my Bored Ape on matching Ivinko NFT wine label? Yeah. We're having to figure it out from a digital printing standpoint, which is complicated, but not that complicated. And then we've also even on one of our Twitter spaces, we talked about this and got some very good feedback, which is because of one of our partners, Keyboard Monkey, who's one of the biggest NFT traders like in history of the game. He knows so many artists who really want to participate in label design, and we're like, okay, well, let's definitely talk about this. Because there's a lot of interest, right? So the concept of having your Ivinko bottle in the metaverse on your shelf, right? If this ever really comes to be, that literally matches the AI generated art on your label that you also have in your wallet, like that's a cool thing. I don't know the final utility of that, but from a collectability and a provenance utility for the wine business, that's never been done. And that actually came up in Discord after a Twitter space because Keyboard Monkey was like, oh yeah, like this one guy, he wants to do like 5,000 different labels for us that could also be useful as profile picture or simply to live on your digital bottle in, your cellar in the metaverse. Like that's cool. And then how does that apply to the real world eventually? Well, if that bottle exists, and let's say you decide to sell your Ivinko Genesis NFT 5 years from now, you have a vehicle that is like provenance, that is serialized. That plays into collectability that interests me, like being a traditional, wine collectible, purist originally. So I just wanted to make that one comment because that was a very interesting idea that kind of came through the community. So.
Very good. I have lots of business people listening to my podcast and my YouTubes. What advice would you give to anyone in business? Looks like the wizard has just dropped off, but hopefully he will return. So Mario, from your point of view, what would you say? What would be your key bit of advice?
Well, I would say that specifically anyone who is considering putting part of their focus in NFTs as a gateway and as access into their business, I think it's inevitable. I think it's literally inevitable. I listened to a podcast with Mark Andreessen the other day, who I don't really know what he's up to lately, but he's seen quite a bit of technological advancement. And he just mentioned, he's like, look, this is not going away. Learn about it. It is literally going to be the backbone of how a lot of society functions in the future. And so I believe that lots of businesses are going to begin to enter the NFT Web3 space as access, organization, and communication nodes. That now that the cat is out of the bag with how easy it is to do, the big guys are all going to want to get in, but they're going to want to try to control their own universes, right? Like Facebook's will have a metaverse where you can buy and sell, but it's going to be very corporate, very selected, very censored, whatever your views are on that. But there's also going to be just the power of interconnectivity with people that want the true democratization, right? So businesses, I would say, go ahead and get started, but the key for us is that we had such a wonderful development team that originally the Wizard has spent a lot of time with, and even our smart contracts, right, which at this point are totally hand coded, right? I mean, like every part of code is written in these smart contracts that then takes in capital, in our case, in the form of Ethereum, and distributes it in real time to each of the wallets, the DAO wallet, the operational wallet, and then like the dev wallet, because we had to pay them to develop it. And I was mesmerized by the elegance of the transactions. It was fascinating. So if you look at business right now, if I wanted to accept X amount of payments like that fast and not crash a data processor or the traditional methods of accepting currency, it would be way more complicated than the elegant contract that was created and tailored just for what we wanted to do. But you have to have the right dev team. So in Web3, what you hear about a lot about is you hear a lot about when projects go to actually mint an NFT, and the members of the Discord they have their wallet connected and they're trying to buy the NFT, and they're like, whoa, look at all this gas, look at all this transactional fee that I'm being charged. Like, this is ridiculous, right? Like, for example, there was a drop that happened of a piece of digital art. I won't name the company, but to buy it was 1 Ethereum. The gas was almost a third of that, right? So when we went to go mint ours, a couple weeks ago, the gas was like nothing. And as we were on a live stream with our dev group, it's really just, I don't know what the word is. It makes me so proud of the intelligence in this community in the Web3, right? Like, one of the guys is like, oh man, like, this is super low gas. We did this right, and it's like, it's chill. It's like these hacker guys that are like the white hat hackers that are the good guys that are just trying to make things smooth. And I got to witness the elegance of the technology, right? So I would say any business person that's listening, go ahead and get started. Search around, try to find a really good dev team who can help you build your original smart contracts. I think it's inevitable that businesses of every kind are going to emerge and try to participate. We just wanted to get in there and try to do it first. And I believe certainly we are the first wine DAO community that's minted. I know that. I know that Constellation Brands and Robert Mondavi did a release of wine, but it wasn't a community. It was basically a sell cash grab. I don't mean that negative. That's just kind of what we call it, right? And I know that when they did that little sale, they basically had a mailing list, which was a lot of boomer like generation, right? And they're like, hey, go buy some Ethereum and then you can buy the token. And these guys are like, Ethereum, like it was a little bit like opposite. But it still happened. It was good. But there was no community that evolved from that. It was more of just like a direct sale, right? So build the Discord, build the community, build the platform, get a great dev team, and to develop some of these early smart contracts, and be as transparent and communicative as possible, because that's what people are craving. Like, people are craving this. Like, for better or worse, look at these long format podcasters, right? Like the Joe Rogan Experience. He's got the most eyeballs of any person in the world. It's because people are craving not the soundbite, not the pushed marketing thing. They're craving discussion. They're craving understanding. And that's what we're seeing is almost like a flip back where you can experience all the greatest old-fashioned things about human culture and human nature, but with the supporting technology. It's interesting.
Like that's a wonderful point to come to an end. So maybe you can finish off with some of the hopes and your few future hopes for this whole Web3 space.
Yeah, I would say that my future hopes for Web3 is that people who have this true belief, like in their heart and their soul, that they want to engage with the best of humankind in community, right? And I don't mean that by saying the best group. I'm so far past that at this point. I want to get to know what my fellow human beings around the world are thinking in real time, without necessarily a media filter, without necessarily a marketing filter. I want to be able to just have this wonderful discussion and engage in good business that is tailored to those interests, right? And that's where I'm hoping that business can go, and traditional business and traditional marketing, traditional media will all play a point in the future, right? But my hope is that the sophistication of Web3 can slightly outpace what I would consider not as honorable practices sometimes in corporate business. But I'm all for creativity. I'm all for profitability. I'm all for the traditional hallmarks of what makes capitalism amazing. Like, do not get me wrong, okay? What I'm hoping to avoid are the authoritarian level controls that you see in places like China. Sorry, China. You're probably not even getting it. We get that note. But these are things that we have learned in the last, I would say, 2 years during the pandemic. People want to communicate directly to each other. They want to do business with people that they feel are like-minded in activity and like-minded in the joy of family and friends, and that's what one of the things that wine really promotes. We believe. So responsibly.
Very good. Wizard, same question to you. What are your hopes for the future of the Web3 space? What would you like to see in the future? Where is this all going?
Sure. So, I would like to see people starting to, like if you look at some old articles of when the internet started, even the Nobel Prize winners like Krugman said this is just a fad and it's going to be gone, right? I want to see, like, that's kind of what I hear a lot from the space, because I think a lot of people just assume Web3 is crypto, like directly, like it's crypto coins, and then there's a lot, obviously there's a lot of like scams in crypto world. But Web3 is not crypto. Like crypto might be Web3, but Web3 isn't crypto. Web3 is decentralization. Crypto currencies could be one of the tools of decentralization that help power Web3. Blockchain in its current state also is, maybe like the backbone or the basis that powers Web3. But it could, things evolve. Like it's very possible the blockchain, like the way we know it now, may not be the final, version of that powers Web3. But what I would love to see is, people having an open mind to really understand what Web3 is, and not just have this preconceived notion of Web3 being either like, a get rich quick scheme, because it's not. For true builders like ourselves, like we're not making it, any like, there's no millions of dollars flowing into my pocket from Ivinko Winery DAO, right? We're creating something for the world. Like most people that, that when they want to build something and create something, they focus right off the bat with the aim of how much money will this make me? And that's the mindset I kind of want to make sure that people who are coming into Web3 have. And as Web3 progresses, I want to make sure that I would love to see that be the core focus, of Web3. Like to give an example, like Ethereum, Vitalik, like, helped found it and his team, but they have very minuscule allocation of Ethereum, like Like they have just enough. There's other people who own way more than Vitalik, right? For example. So Vitalik did not make Ethereum because he was trying to get rich of it. He made it because he wanted to have true decentralized governance. We are making Ivinko Winery DAO not just so we can, like, it's a get rich quick scheme for us. We're doing it because we want the world to have a true decentralized winery, have a community, have this glue that brings people from all around the world together. So people should need to focus more on community in Web3, and we hope that we can be one of the main kind of leaders that help try and push that forward, not just from a technological standpoint, but more so from the community aspect, and more that we want everybody to win. We want everybody to be able to have a say in this, and not just a few handpicked people who were early. Yeah.
Very good. Thank you so much, Wizard and Mario, for your time today. This was fascinating. I could keep going forever. Maybe I need to extend my podcast to the Rogan Josh experience and keep going.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time today. That was fascinating. Yeah. And anyone who ever wants to rewatch this, head to my YouTube channel or my podcast, and where you can find obviously this one and hundreds of other amazing conversations like this. So thank you very much.
Bernard, thank you so much.
Thank
you. Really appreciate your time.